Hi, my name is Jonny from OtherWise Education, and in today's Rites of Passage session, we are going to be looking at making personal dictionaries. Now I know what you're thinking. What's the point? They already exist. Look at the size of them. They're massive. We don't need to add to this mess. Wrong. Today we're going to be making personal dictionaries. But in order to do so, let's go into the history classroom and see how dictionaries began. Over there. Okay, are we ready? I'm going to put my history hat on and do my history voice, okay? Although he was not the founder of the Oxford English Dictionary, Dr. James Murray was a very important figure. He was the principal editor from 1879 until 1915. He was a remarkable fellow with many linguistic skills. He could speak in English, Dutch, Spanish, French, Italian, Latin, Flemish, Dutch, Italian, Latin and English, but he could also speak in other languages including Arabic, Hebrew, Sanskrit and even Portuguese. We are going to be going into our own scriptoria and making our own personal dictionaries. Now, today I'm going to be teaching you two new words. I presume they might be new. One of them is dialect and the other one is idiolect. Let's begin by looking at what dialect is. Dialect is the way that a language is spoken in a specific area. So a dialect might mean you've got the same language, but you might be spoken with a slightly different accent, or there might be different words or sayings. There might be slightly different meanings attached to different words. My dad's a poet from Yorkshire, and when he writes his poems, he often writes in a South Yorkshire dialect. Let's go over to see him. Hear my dad.
Hear out, see out, say out. Eat out, sup out, pay out. And if ever they does out for nought, then do it for this end.
So in that little proverb that my dad shared, he used words which are dialectal words with dialectal meanings. So he might have said oat instead of anything. He might have said note instead of nothing. Or he might have said this end instead of yourself. When I go back to Doncaster and spend some time there, my accent and my dialect probably get stronger. And your dialects can change at different times depending on where you live. People who live nearby in the same area share lots of the same dialect a lot of the time. So words which might seem unfamiliar to somebody from a different place would be shared and understood by people who are nearby. That's kind of how dialects work. Your idiolect then is like your dialect but even more zoomed in and personal. It's like the dialect of you, yourself. So your idiolect might be a combination of all the different dialects that you speak. It might be a combination of words and phrases that your family use. It might be words that have come to you from the games that you play, or the sports that you play, or the things that you do for fun, all of the language around those games and activities. If you are fortunate and skilled enough to speak more than one language, sometimes your idiolect will be mixing up those languages, so you might use some words from one language inside your other languages. This is your personal idiolect. Let's make a start then on our personal dictionaries. Now, you might want to use a physical book to write in. You might want to use a blank notepad and it's something that you could add to throughout your life. I'm going to go old school and I'm going to use slips of paper like Dr. James Murray. Let's begin. The first word in my idiolect is jas. It goes back to a specific moment in my childhood when me and my family went to the zoo and I was standing with my brother and there was a little girl who was next to us pointing at the monkeys, and she turned to her relative and she said, "Why is the monkey eating jas?" And something about the word jas, like the way she pronounced grass, was really funny. So now jas is a word that I still use with my brother, and if I say, "Let's go and sit on the jas," he will know what I mean. It's like a funny extra layer of meaning to grass for us. My next word is bear. Now bear is already a word, but it's got a different meaning here. I teach in East London and sometimes the kids would say things like, "Oh, that was bear jokes." And I said, "I didn't hear any jokes about bears," thinking I'm really funny. Bear just means lots of. That's part of my idiolect. I'm an East London boy now. We need to talk about slopdosh. Slopdosh was one of my favourite foods as a child. You'd get your mashed potato, you'd pour the gravy on it, you'd pour the peas on it, you'd pour the sweet corn on it, you'd get your spoon or your fork or your knife and you'd stir it to make mush. Now that is what I would call slopdosh. I thought I might have invented that word, but I wanted to double check. But when I googled it, I found that slopdosh is a Yorkshire dialect word which means wet mud. You can see the link. So for me, slopdosh is the meal of potato, gravy, peas and sweet corn. Sort of a meal. But it also means wet mud. That's going in the Idiolectic Dictionary. Next up. Mugsy. Mugsy was something that my old basketball coach used to always call the smallest, most skilled player on a basketball team. I always thought it was just like an interesting nickname until I learnt who Mugsy was. So Mugsy Bogues, who you can see running around behind me. Mugsy Bogues is the smallest NBA basketball player there's ever been. He was 5'3", so he was like small as an adult and he played incredible basketball. So he would always call the smallest, coolest member of a group Mugsy. It's like an affectionate nickname and I like it. Finally. Anyone for a flippy flappo? A flippy flappo is a word that we use when my nephew or niece come round and they want to eat a tortilla wrap, perhaps with some hummus or some other dips. They don't say, could I please have a tortilla wrap? They say, can I have a flippy flappo? And I prefer this. So now, even though I am an adult, sometimes I'll just go in search of flippy flappos for myself. Anyone fancy a flippy flappo? So we've started making our personal dictionaries. Now obviously it's not a dictionary with just 5 words. This is a project which you can continue for years if you'd like to. So we've made a start. Now I've got my few here. I'm going to start adding to them and I'm going to put them in alphabetical order when I've got a few more of them. So it will be like a real dictionary. Throughout your lives, you're going to be absorbing words, absorbing language, and the more different places you go, the more likely you are to pick up new words on your journey. We can't wait to hear about it, so maybe you'd like to share it with us. If you share some of your special idiolectic word meanings with your teachers, maybe you should tell them to share it with us, and maybe we'll be able to do some shout outs in a future video and share some of your interesting vocabulary. Have a great day, learn a new word, and see you later. Bye now.